In the studio today, we have Mr. Dlamini interviewing Guru Khare about his thoughts behind Cheiromancy. Sabona everyone, that question is for you listeners out there. Have you ever looked at your palms for longer than 5 seconds? Even less than that, and you'd notice that your palms have lines on them. It would be difficult to go through life without ever hearing of certain people who claim that they can tell their future just by reading your palms. Guru Khare is sitting opposite to me right now, and I want him to reveal to us his thoughts on palmistry. Over to you, Guru Khare.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. I got interested in the art of Cheiromancy or palmistry a long time ago, but I need to get something straight first. And that is that what I feel is extremely important. You see, I don't believe in God, nor do I believe that there is an all-seeing power. You know, sometimes when people don't believe in God, they say, no, but I believe that there's one entity looking over us. Well, unfortunately, I don't believe in that either. You know, someone who controls everyone's destiny, I don't believe in that either. Neither do I believe in a heaven or hell. Neither do I believe in nitpicking and saying either neither or neither, or it's just either or either. You know, it's just accents. So if anyone's confused about that, I'm just putting that straight. What I do believe in is that the God, let me put it straight, okay? I believe that there's a God inside every living thing. Yeah, even plants and trees. We aren't able to look into that yet, although there are some scientists out there who can look into that. But once again, you know, that's just a different story. Let's just stick to the point. So what I'm saying here is, I believe that a person or an animal that is selfless, thoughtful more for others than for oneself, and who cares for others without looking for gain, I believe those people, that there's a God in those people. You get what I'm saying? Get what I'm saying, Mr. Dlamini? How? I get you, Very interesting. I'm telling you the first 2-3 sentences and I'm already interested. I'm glued. Carry on, Mr. Guru Khare. Thank you. My beliefs may obviously touch a few nerves, and that's why I wanted to be honest. And what I say next may also confuse some people. The thing is, I actually believe in ghosts and reincarnations. How? But I think I understand that from you, Guru Khare, because everyone at KFANDRA, especially after seeing the YouTube videos, there are so many things about the supernatural. But I am interrupting you again. You please go on, Guru Khare. I was warned by so many people that you would be interrupting me so often, but don't worry, Mr. Dlamini. I respect you, so I'll just carry on. The big question is, why should the supernatural be connected to religion? You see, my theories on ghosts, the spirit, the soul, my theories on reincarnation, I will get into that later. But the big question is, why should all this be connected with religion? Especially for those that do not believe in religion or a God. I can go on and on this topic, but maybe in another video series. Hey, Mr. Dlamini, how you are right, and this is when I should just quickly interrupt you. People are generally sensitive about religion and gods, which is why KFANDRA doesn't lean into these topics for fear of creating unnecessary controversy. All of us at KFANDRA believe in the principle, live and let live, but some people don't. They believe that their way is the right way, and that everyone else should change their ways to follow their own. Hence, I don't think we'll be able to have a topic on that. Sorry, Guru Khare. No worries, Mr. Dlamini. Shall I go on? Of course, Of course, go on. Then let's look at the art of studying palms to tell one's future. And did you know that your past is also written in your hands? Did you know that, Mr. Dlamini? I have read about it, but just a little bit. But I know it is something to do with past, present, future. That's true, Mr. Dlamini, that's true. Tell me, Mr. Dlamini, when a practical and logical thinker like me is talking of using palms to read a person's future and past, doesn't it seem odd? How? Everyone at KFANDRA is odd. Guru, I am sure that those outside of KFANDRA are indeed thinking on those lines for sure. So right, Mr. Dlamini, let me carry on. I have not studied too deep into Cheiromancy, and I don't plan to either. I've done a lot of research and read a few books written by experts or so-called experts on the art of palmistry. These people have laid the foundation for me, that's for sure, such as the basic lines of the palms, as you notice, Miss Dlamini, I said palms, so that's the left hand and right hand, which are the lines of the heart, head and life, and a lot more. How I know as well, there's like line of destiny and there's line of brilliance. I have heard about it. So sure, Mr. Dlamini. The thing is, you see, let me be clear and specific. I'm not the kind of person that can rest easy on someone else's hard work. The simple reason being that reading about a person's future is extremely difficult. If the adage that a life-changing event can happen at any second holds true, for suppose such as a terrorist attack, a plane crash, or even an earthquake, why do you think this is so? Let me explain. The world has changed since the time Cheiromancy was popular. So many people are living their own lives in their own way, and there's a higher possibility that their actions can affect the life of someone living miles away, if not next door. That's why, according to me, it's impossible to read in someone's palm that they will die in an accident, or, to be more detailed, a specific vehicular accident. What can be foretold is that their palm tells of a possible accident at a certain time, giving the person a small window of what can happen and to be careful during that period. But again, this takes away from my actual line of thinking in relation to palmistry. Sorry to interrupt you, Guru Khare, but let me bring my players into the conversation right now. Well, not exactly into the conversation, actually. What I did over the past week was ask the players about if they have heard of chemistry. Mr. Dlamini, did you say chemistry? It must have been the tongue of a sleep, or the sleep of the tongue. You know when you're running and you sleep on a wet surface. Mr. Dlamini, I've seen you slip on a more gravelly polished surface as well. That was maybe when I had a little peg or two. But that is another story. What I am saying to you, Mr. You mean Guru Khare? You are right, Guru Khare. What I am saying is, I have asked the players about if they have heard of palmistry and cheiromancy, and them staying in India for so long. I was sure of the answer. I was sure, and that is why I asked them about what they know about it, and also if they have any true stories that they can tell us about the reading of the palms. And here are the recordings. First up is Jadev Karant.
I think palmistry is a pseudoscience. I don't really believe much into it. I think it follows. I look at it the same way I look at horoscopes. It is some basic data pattern matching depending upon past history, but it doesn't really prove anything. It doesn't really prove anything. So it's take it with a grain of salt. I leave it to the person to decide whether it makes sense or not.
The next up is Vishal Chobanputra.
Regarding palmistry, I don't have a lot of experience, but I have had someone who has seen my palm, but I haven't really subscribed to anything after that, so haven't really followed on with anything. I'm sure there is some, mathematics and science to it, but I haven't had much experience with it, so I can't say much. A lot of people do believe in it, and a lot of people swear by it. I know people whose lives have changed literally by subscribing to numbers and palm reading and things like that.
Coming up is Priyank Kurani.
So my personal experience regarding palmistry is that I have had experience in my childhood where a Pandit saw my palm and he told me that I'll have a good career in corporate world. And after my graduation, I joined my family business. So it has not been a very good experience.
He probably just did that so that prove him wrong.
So yes, that is I have not subscribed to that belief. Maybe it was childhood, that's why my palm marks were not developed that way.
Ajay Sangvi.
So regarding palmistry, I really haven't had any experiences so far, and I feel that palmistry is more a manifestation of what we human minds control in the past, especially if you're told something that this is going to happen in the future for you. We try and manifest that with our subconscious mind.
We have Niranjan Sarda.
To each his own, I guess. Enough. I think in the family, there's enough people who, in the elderly generation who believe in it, and so it used to be a great way to spend some time during the summers. And there's always some incidences that will fall in place per the prediction. So science or not, I think it's a matter of faith. So if it helps you move forward, why not?
Yes. If you find a good palmist, then you don't mind showing it again.
And finally, Mukul Inamda.
आत्ता मला पामिस्ट्रीला मराठीमध्ये काय म्हणतात ते आठवत नाहीये, पण तो शब्द मला जेव्हा आठवेल तेव्हा मी कदाचित एक नवीन ध्वनी.
I think his recording silently stopped. But anyway, we've got just now, before we go back to Guru Khare for his Cheiromancy and Palmistry words, profound words, I must say. I'm bringing you right now a bit something funny. I'm bringing in a recording of a few of the players. I think it is Ajay Sangvi, Mukul Inamda, and Sudarshan Sharma who were recorded while they were discussing palmistry. Here you go. Yeah, here's the recording.
Topic is palmistry. I always wonder how they read lines and say that your life is going to be so long or you're going to make so much money. I have been told I have a big money line, but I don't see the money anywhere, even in my bank balance.
You guys talk? No, it's not.
Okay.
Talk.
Bolo.
Ask me for
Yo.
Discuss.
Ajju, let me see your palm. I see a very big money line and lifeline. I don't know why you're saying there is no money in your life. I think you're lying. They say I'll marry 3 times. I'll have 3 wives, but I'm not getting married once also. so it is all fake. So all the palm people.
Palm people, that's what you call them, palm people. Hey, those
astrologers are all
funny
useless.
things, what do you call them? Horoscope.
Is it on?
No.
Yeah, I see even the red light, green light, something flashing behind.
But you know I can read palm. If I'm saying
It's on, no?
read palm,
So is it on?
it's on, it's on.
So I have no idea what to say.
I don't believe in palmistry and things like that, but I don't like to joke about it because just in case they are true or something, I don't want to take that risk.
Hold it. Oh, done! I was one of the most pathetic bloody. Did you guys know that I can read palms? That I've studied. Now you're wondering, oh shit.
How. Now, wasn't it interesting, eh? Guru Khare? Back to you, Guru Khare. But before we go back to you, make sure everyone who is listening out there, make sure that you're going to purchase a copy of my memoirs that will be released in the future. Guru Khare should be impressed with me for my prediction. I have predicted the future. You see, I read that I'll be releasing my memoirs in the future at some point in time in my own hands. But on a serious note, when I do release them, they'll be in a 3-book format, and you should please read them. Read them with a smile on your face and sometimes tears, because I'm telling you it is going to be very emotional. Very. Now back to you, Guru Khare. Thank you for being patient, Guru Khare, and any listeners out there. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Dlamini. I need anyone that's listening to understand my philosophy first. Then you may get where I'm coming from. To explain myself, let's imagine that there are 4 people that are involved in an experiment. One is religious and believes in a god or many gods. One is an atheist. By the atheist, I mean to say he is a non-believer. One believes that a person's soul is alive until the soul dies, and the other, that's the fourth, is just pure evil and doesn't deserve to live. What do you think will happen to each of them once they are diagnosed as clinically dead? At this moment, I'm going to break away and ask Mr. Dlamini if he could ask his players the same question and also another. The question about the soul and also what they think will happen after they die. Is there life after death? Is there anything? Maybe heaven or even hell? How? That's taken me by surprise, eh? Guru Khare, another couple of questions for the players. How? I do hope they'll be more talkative than they were before. And that just means that I'll have to continue this interview with them after the interviews. Correct? Guru Khare? Not at all. We can continue this interview now and you can arrange the final recording as if I've done the recording after the interviews. Oh, that is brilliant. Thank you, Guru Khare, thank you. First up is Jadev Garant.
Regarding what happens when I die, so yeah, according to science, your body dissolves and it decomposes into, the components. But there are many things science doesn't know, and even I don't know in that case.
The next up is Vishal Chobanputra.
Regarding what happens after you die, I think we're too insignificant in that matter. Universe is just, right now there are like multi-universes and vortexes of universes and whatnot. So we're like too tiny, too minute, I feel. So I don't think much about reincarnation really. Thank you.
Coming up is Priyank Kurani.
And the other question regarding life after death, I actually don't believe in life after death. So, yeah, that's it.
Ajay Sangvi.
And with regards to reincarnation, I think there's too many ifs and buts and yeses and no's. But I personally believe that I don't think there is any life after death. Thank you.
I am telling you, Guru Khare, my players they aren't shocked anymore when I keep asking them wild questions. They know me very well. Now back to you, Guru Khare, and you can answer your view as well of that same questions. Hey, you haven't done that, so carry on, Guru Khare. Well, to answer that question myself, I'll go back to it a little later, Mr. Dlamini, because my answer is related to my philosophy regarding palmistry and the soul. No problem, no worries, carry on. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. When I first started studying palmistry, the first thing that confused me is why there are so many planets involved with the reading of palmistry. How is it that the planets, which may be a part of a solar system, have such a major influential effect on every human being? That too during a time when humans could only see the constellations and notice that one white dot may be smaller or bigger or blurrier or darker or redder than the other. They didn't know that Saturn had rings, nor did they know much about Venus or Mars or Uranus. They probably didn't know much about their own agents either. Mr. Guru Khare, please, you are a guru. You do not crack such plural jokes. Very bad. But I understand where you're coming from. I wonder who has named it. Who has named that planet? It is very funny, and that is for another video as well. How the planets were named. That'll be good fun, Mr. Guru Khare. It will be a lot of fun, A lot of fun, and it is actually fodder for another video, but I'll just carry on, You see, I understood that the moon has an effect on the waves of the ocean and werewolves. That's another joke, Mr. Dlamini, that's another joke. Ow! How I am joking as well, and this interview is going crazy, Mr. Guru Khare. We have to get on track. I totally agree with you, So, let's see, where was that? Werewolves, yeah. So werewolves are a figment of a storyteller's imagination. Although it would be quite easy to define some really huge, hairy males with high amounts of testosterone flowing through them, all having anger issues, as being werewolves. You're very funny, Guru Khare. Carry on. The thing is, being interested in astronomy, you see, my dad had a telescope through which we used to look at all the planets, including the sun, through a filter, of course, and even the reflection of it and the sunspots. Oh, that was very beautiful, Mr. Dlamini. Ah, I should have been there. You should have been. I also gazed in awe as the craters on the moon became magnified. Oh, I can't stop, even Mars, the red of Mars, it was just wonderful. What I can tell you is that looking at an image of a planet in a book is just not the same as looking at a planet or the moon through a telescope. How I believe you, Guru Khare. Childhood, thank you, sorry. You see, what I'm trying to say is my childhood obviously shaped my thoughts towards a world beyond this world. No doubt the comics with aliens and everything also influenced my views. By the way, Mr. Dlamini, I have seen a UFO. Now called UAPs. Unidentified aerial phenomena. But that's for another story. You have seen it. I've actually seen it and it's in my memoirs, Mr. Dlamini. How am I releasing my memoirs as well? Oh, well, let's make a combination of it then. You are right. Let's make a combination. But what are you saying? I have actually seen, Mr. Dlamini, a UFO when I was traveling with my parents. Every 2 years we used to come to India. I've actually seen a UFO from one of the hotels we were staying in. I was in the balcony and I saw it. But that's, once again, Mr. Dlamini, that's for another video, eh? You are right. That is for another video, eh? But you please carry on in this. Have we talked about palmistry? I think we have talked less. And the listeners out there, the thousands and millions of listeners. I like imagination, Mr. Dlamini. You are right. My imagination is another video we can make, eh, Guru Khare. Too true, Mr. Dlamini, too true. But let us carry on. You please carry on. And can you please? My request is, I am just from my earpiece. I am getting some information that many listeners are calling in. And also the directors are wondering. The persons who are making this podcast, they are wondering: are we actually going to talk about palmistry or everything else but palmistry? So please, can you please stick to the topic, Guru Khare. As long as, Mr. Dlamini, you call me Guru Khare and not keep calling me Mr., then I think I'll be able to stick to it. You are right. I am also sorry. So you please carry on, Guru Khare. I will carry on, What were we talking about? Oh, yes, how planets became a part of palmistry. And I was wondering, I started thinking about it and I thought the moon was actually close to us. So it was understandable, logically speaking, that it could have an influence on the oceans and maybe on all animals with brains that were in fact a mix of chemicals that could be affected by the gravitational pull, in this case the moon, and not because of some Jarutona, hocus pocus or muti, but to be affected by planets that were so far away, further than the moon. That got me thinking, and there is a simple explanation if you'll hear me out. Of course, Mr. Dlamini, please go on. Back then, when science was not a thing and logic wasn't either, superstition ruled supreme. This meant that soothsayers could rule the roost. There were many people back then, and I dare say now also, that can read the future on leftover tea leaves in your cup of chai, or even the dead entrails of a poor animal. Poor dead animal, I meant to say. Maybe there are some. You know what? I've heard, Mr. Dlamini. What is it? I think you're going off topic again. Yes, but this is very important. It's about what I said. I think there are people who read the foretell of the future through the entrails of live animals and human beings as well. That is getting very graphic. We'll have to put one of those warnings before this podcast that we are going to talk about things that will disturb the people. But I'm telling you, Mr. Sorry, that was our agreement, but no one will listen to me. I'm sorry, Guru Khare, but you have to stick to that topic. Please, for my sake, Guru Khare. For your sake, I will. So let me carry on. I'll carry on, Mr. Dlamini. I've been saying carry on for too long. But it is your interview. But as long as you keep the people entertained who are listening, there is no problem with me. Let me carry on then. Some thought it clever to find ways to influence the public. The more complex it was, the better it became to read the future. As a matter of fact, religion grew from this fundamental need to control people. But that's treading into territory that I won't speak about publicly, and once again a topic for another day. I believe palmistry was a part of this natural growth. On these same lines, think about fingerprints. If every single human being has different fingerprints, then wouldn't their prints be able to tell the unique story of each individual? This is getting interesting. Very interesting, Mr. Dlamini. They could look at fingerprints and tell stories of their past, present and future. Don't you think so? You see, nothing's wrong with the reading of fingerprints to foretell the future, but it's not practical. To read fingerprints you need a magnifying glass or a microscope. It's not feasible. To read palms thoroughly though, you just need a magnifying glass, and that's easy to use and ready at hand. What I must profess is that it must have taken a hell of a lot of research to designate every planet to a specific finger or mount of the palm. Did you know, Mr. Dlamini, that a mount is a short form of mountain? This is very interesting. Just carry on. Carry on. I will. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. It becomes clear that astrology was born well before palmistry, which is how palmistry could leech off astrology. I don't want to take away from all the learned hand readers out there, for I would be a harbinger of evil to them, and no doubt they are far more learned than me, for I am nothing to the vast amounts of knowledge in this field. That's why I want to make it clear that this interview is not meant to ridicule them or make fun of them at all. This interview is just my personal take on it, and from this interview you'll find out, and they'll find out, that I believe in palmistry. I do, but I just don't believe that, it has to be religious or religion oriented. When I do read palms, if I do, just not seriously, but sometimes when I do, I don't bring the planets into the mix. What I do take is what meaning the readers of the palm take from these planets. That is the professional readers, what meaning they take from the planets, because they've done all the research. Carry on, For example, it's said that having a large mount under the finger of Saturn, or a strong line under the finger of Saturn, or just having a hand dominated by the finger of Saturn would mean that the person is cautious in nature and would probably be very mature. In a way, it's easy for a person now to read the qualities or traits of a person if you say he or she is Saturnian in nature. You just spew out all the words that describe a cautious person. But when I read it, all I'll read is that the person looks to be a cautious person. I will not say he or she lives under the influence of Saturn. The same goes with the other fingers. For those that are unaware, the thumb is included as well. It may be a thumb, but it's also a finger. I must add here, Mr. Dlamini, that I've learnt a heck of a lot from you. How? Oh, really? You are making me blush, eh? Yes, really. I've heard how many times you have said that you can recognize the nature of a person just on how he or she plays in the first minute or 5 minutes they play under you. How? But that must be Khare sense, yeah? But I will take the credit for it. Thank you. Siabonga. Don't worry, Mr. Dlamini. You always term this reading under man management, don't you, Mr. Dlamini? You are right. To man manage players, you need to have an understanding of the kind of players they are. Are they the ones that need to be pushed all the time, or do they need just a pat on the back or a slap on the bum? In the same way, I have an inkling of the nature of an individual when they walk in to see me, or from a conversation on the phone, and even when talking to them. Obviously, it gets extremely difficult when a person does his or her best to fool me. Then I hope that a person will slip up at some point when conversing with me. It's very difficult to get everything right, from the way they hold their hands to the way they talk, the way their eyes move, and also their pauses. Now you can understand why the results of a polygraph test aren't valid in a court of law, simply because a human being can teach himself or herself to manipulate the tone of voice and balance his or her own heart rate to fool the machine. Now, if the polygraph test included video evidence of the person answering the questions, then that would be useful. Ooh, very interesting, eh? But once again, that's another story for another day. So right, you are sticking to that track, and I am happy, I am pleased. We'll go out for a drink together. Guru Khare. Of course, Mr. Dlamini, of course. Let me carry on, eh? Please go ahead. One must realize that the reading of the palm began way back in India, when India was steeped in traditions and religion and superstition. The research done then was valid only for those times and conditions. Then, as the foreigners borrowed this idea, the reading of the palms, they manipulated it to work on their traditions and superstitions and lifestyles. And now the readers of today have done the same thing. They have adjusted the readings and studied the progress of humankind and changes in tradition to allow palmistry to work today. What's important to know is that palmistry works for as long as the person who wants their palms read trusts the palm reader, or to put it differently, fears the unknown and therefore fears the palm reader. What I want to make clear is that there's nothing to fear. If you fear a palm reader, then it's obvious you believe in horoscopes and fortune tellers. Then believing in superstitions is a matter of fact. For example, how many players always put on the left sock first and then the right, or vice versa, every single time? How many ordinary people go through the same routine every day, even placing their house footwear in a particular place, say outside the bathroom door? These, in the end, are all superstitions. I won't even go on about what that Indian thing is called, Vastu. No, I'm not going to go on about how. Don't you go on about it. Oh, okay, just carry on. Some superstitions, Mr. Dlamini, border on OCD, also known as obsessive compulsive disorder. How many people out there have thought that if they don't button up their shirt in the exact sequence, or if they don't put on their makeup in the exact same way, then something bad will happen to someone they know, or to themselves? These are superstitions, and on the face of it, silly. But my take on this is that as long as it doesn't become extreme, such as OCD, if the superstition calms the person down and is not harmful to others, then what's the problem? How? Correct. Sometimes believing in something can bring up positive energy and good things will happen. If the palm reader says something good will happen, then the person will feel positive and automatically good things will happen. And the same goes for it if the palm reader says something bad will happen. If the person just accepts it as fate, then something bad will happen. But if the person decided to work harder so that something bad won't happen, then it's more likely something bad won't happen. This stuff is deep, man, very deep. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. Scientists have discovered that most of the nerve endings end up in a person's hands. This means the brain is connected mostly to the hands. This lends cadence to the theory that when the neurons fire in the brain and it's something extremely important, then a note of that happening is etched on the palm. Another interesting story or theories is about when a human baby is born. Did you know that when babies are brought out of the womb, their hands are closed into fists? How? That the moment they cry or make their first sounds, their hands open, and interestingly enough, they're open with the forefinger first. That's the first digit next to the thumb. The theory is that the moment the palm opens, life enters the baby. This fascinating story is why most every palm reader reads the palm with the beginning point being under that finger, which is called the finger of Jupiter. This interview is bloody interesting, Guru. Siabonga in your language, eh? Mr. Dlamini, how, Siabonga. Now let me carry on before everyone starts criticizing you, Mr. Dlamini, and starts shouting at you. Please carry on. Now this brings us close to explaining my modern theory on palmistry. Close to, because I need to carry on building on my theory before it explains itself. How? You're speaking very intelligent, eh? Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. Every person is born either right or left-handed. There are some very rare few who are naturally ambidextrous, which means to use both hands with equal dexterity, and some who have taught themselves to use both hands. But if asked truthfully, even they will say that they favor one hand over the other. Let's imagine that person A prefers his left hand and person B prefers her right hand. If I were to read the palms, I would read them according to their preference, which would mean that person A's right hand and person B's left hand would be the hands that describe their past lives or the lives that they had led in another life. And the hands that they preferred, person A's left hand and person B's right hand, would be describing their current life. When I read hands, I discovered that the lines on a person's weaker hand rarely ever changed, but the lines on a person's stronger hand continuously changed. This meant that the person's current life was most reflected through the brain in the person's stronger hand. Before we go on, I need to speak of something that I've learned to respect, and that is the word anomaly. I've learned that there are anomalies to everything. By an anomaly, I mean something which is not going as per how it should. For example, if you make a statement such as, all dogs bark, and then come across a dog that prefers whining than barking, you could call that dog an anomaly. Similarly, in palm reading, you may come across someone that is a total anomaly. where the readings of that person's palm are all skewed and your reading of that person was mistaken too. The faster you can catch on to this anomaly, the quicker you'll be able to get things right. Thus, anomalies must be considered always when reading palms. And now to that question I asked Mr. Dlamini to ask his players. There are 4 individuals. One is religious and believes in a god or many gods. One is an atheist. One believes that a person's soul is alive until the soul dies, and the other is just pure evil and doesn't deserve to live. What do you think will happen to each of them once they are diagnosed as clinically dead? About life after death, heaven and hell, and the soul. This is what I believe, that the soul of a person does survive after death, as the body is a mere vessel for the soul. The soul, though, can't now compare to how it was when it was alive in its vessel or body. The soul now is just there, where it wants to be. It can stay if it's got the power to stay. The power to stay stems from the life the soul led when it was alive in its body. Maybe it's hovering near its body or near a loved one. In this state, the soul can't return to its own body because the body is dead. The soul is now stuck. It can't get inside another living body because that living body it wants to get into already has a soul. Think about it, Mr. Dlamini. Would you want another soul trying to find its way inside your own body? I mean, even when you went to the toilet, Mr. Dlamini, wait, the toilet. Exactly, Mr. Dlamini. You went to the toilet and someone's telling you why you're going to the toilet. You are right. Very funny things like that. Extremely funny, Mr. Dlamini. So what I'm trying to say is, the thoughts of that soul are mingling with your own. That to that person is totally unlike you. I mean, it would be crazy. I believe that every living thing has an inbuilt defense mechanism that doesn't allow another soul to find a way inside. The examples of souls finding a living body to stay in are many. Have you seen the movie Exorcist? And there are many others. How? What about Chucky, eh? Good on Mr. Dlamini. For that kind of a movie, I'm skeptical, as it's not logical to me. Why take over a doll when you could do all sorts of other things? Logically speaking, if the ghost could use its powers to move a doll around and stab people, couldn't the soul take a piece of chalk and write stuff on a wall? Or use a computer keyboard? I mean, it could switch it on when everyone's asleep, or start using it when someone's on it. How can a ghost take over an inanimate object? Just because in the eyes of a human, it has a body of a human and is basically humanoid. This is why it makes no sense to me. That's why when religion mixes up with stuff, anything's allowed. How? I've suddenly lost my fear of the movie. Guru Khare, your explanation is logical, I must say. Okay, tell me about the haunting of houses. What about the Amityville horror? I don't think many people have heard of the Amityville horror, Mr. Dlamini, but I will. Who's going off on a tangent now, Mr. Dlamini? You just told me that the bosses don't want me to go off on a tangent and that I should stick with palmistry. You are right, Mfana. But please, just to please me, answer that question. Just for you, Mr. Dlamini, no worries, eh? In my logical mind, when religion isn't involved, I'd ask the question, why? Why would those ghosts or souls haunt a house? Why would flies gather on a window? I can't even remember the movie now. It was also based on true events, and I can tell you, it scared the crap out of me. But as the years go by, you stop believing in things like that, and you start asking questions. Why would ghosts or souls haunt a house? Why are they stuck in that house? Why can't they haunt some famous sports stadium or a top office somewhere, or cause chaos in the share market? The thing is, as I believe in ghosts, the only logical explanation is that these ghosts were cuckoo when alive and continued being cuckoo as ghosts. Even logically though, I don't think souls can survive for so long. There has to be some endpoint. On a personal note, my mum kept sending us messages through all sorts of mediums. We even believe mum's soul entered Kanapi for a time. The stories I can tell you, Mr. Dlamini, this was how. I've heard many of them. You have even mentioned a few, I think, in that series on YouTube. Very true, and maybe over a drink, if I can ever have a drink, we will discuss a few more. And can tell you now, Mr. Dlamini, that Kanapi does some things that Mum was fond of doing. And I believe these are just remnants of Mum's soul residing in Kanapi. This is so heavy, man. Extremely difficult for anyone on this planet to believe in, Mr. Dlamini, although there are some, I'm sure, who would believe me. But I've got more stories, Mr. Dlamini. Do you want to hear them right now? Yeah, boy, I want to hear. Hey, interesting. But let's just listen to our bosses, Mr. Dlamini, and maybe I'll just tell you one, which is pretty relevant to the palmistry stories which I'm telling right now, because people have to understand where I'm coming from to understand everything about what I'm trying to say. A bit confusing here, but yeah, but carry on. Mr. Dlamini, there's this time when Mum was alive, and she'd bought this car, purchased the first car she had when she came to India, and because me and Surud, we're not too confident, I should say. I mean, we're confident, obviously, but not overly confident, that being born in India makes you confident. We weren't like that, and we didn't like using the car because of the traffic, and we were very comfortable using the two-wheelers, but we used to use Mum's car to just ferry her back and forth for wherever she wanted to go. And the story happens that Mum, and on the dashboard, Mum had kept this an idol of the elephant god. The festival is going right now. You mean the Ganpati festival, eh? Yeah, that's it. That festival is going on right now. But Mum had this effigy, the idol, on the dashboard. And I used to tell Mum, hey Mum, come on, I'm a non-believer. I'm driving the car. Obviously, something bad is going to happen because I'm a non-believer. So Mum used to say, in her own language, I won't say anything now, she used to abuse the crap out of me. Well, not abuse, but you know how it is with mums and children. And I just let it go. So unfortunately, one day, Mr. Dlamini, Mum passed away. I was there. Yeah, boy, carry on. So Mum did pass away, and all those stories started. Mum's soul, and this is just one story I wanted to tell you about, because it was one of the. I mean, it just happened 2 or 3 weeks, I think. Not 2 or 3 weeks. Sorry, Mum. Mr. Dlamini, I don't miss. I mean, Mum passed away, and the very next morning, Mum passed away in the night. I'm not sure when now. I think it must have been 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then we had everything. We had the cremation, we had everything. But I was there, Mr. Dlamini. I was coaching the next day, and I'd gone for coaching. And obviously, brother and I, we decided that it's better to keep the car in Mum's memory. What's the point of selling it now? It's an old car anyway. What's the point of selling it? And decided to keep it. And obviously, you have to use these cars, especially the old cars. You have to use them. Otherwise they'll get spoiled. Giving it for servicing regularly, of course, but then it'll get spoiled if you don't use the car. I understood it. You have to use it, and that's why you were using it, and that's when the story happened. Mr. Guru Khare. I think now, because of you, Mr. Dlamini, I'm going to change my name to Mr. Guru Khare. How you are laughing? Okay, I'm sorry. It's just so I've been talking, to Mr. Smith and Mr. Khare that it just comes in my mind, Mr. And that's okay. I would be foolish to get angry on something as small as that, but let me carry on, Mr. Dlamini, how you are right. You just carry on. Back to the car, and I decided to take it, to use it, because I had coaching sessions in the morning, and I had to travel some ways. I had to travel like 12 to 15 kilometers there, and then back 12 or 15 kilometers, and that was enough use. Twice, I thought twice a week, thrice a week. I had coaching 4 or 5 sessions a week, so it was possible to use the car and maintain it that way. So what happened was, on the first occasion when I took the car out, you won't believe this, Mr. Dlamini, but the battery, we just installed a new battery. The battery was brand new. I started the car, it wouldn't start. Mr. Dlamini. I literally put the ignition, switched on the ignition, it wouldn't start. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I tried, and then I had to take the two-wheeler. And I was wondering, how is this possible? Maybe, there's a loose connection. So when I came back home, I went down, I checked the car again, and the connections were fine. It was brilliant. And I said, okay, there's no problem on taking the car out for the next session. This time, I turned the ignition on, and it started. I was like, whoa, it started. I started reversing because my garage is parked in such a way where the car is. I have to reverse and then pull the car out of the society. And when I reversed it, the lights went off. The car was still on, Mr. Dlamini, but the lights went off. I'm like, this is 5 o'clock in the bloody morning. I can't see a thing. The lights are off. The car is black. It's a black car, Mr. Dlamini. And nobody would see me on the road. Even sometimes, on our streets, the lights go off suddenly. They're not on suddenly. And, whew, it's very scary, and especially when the roads are littered. I mean, not with litter, by the way, littered. They're not only littered with litter, but they're littered with people driving other vehicles who have no sense and sensibility. That's a movie, by the way, Mr. Dlamini. How you are right. Just carry on. I'm just listening and I'm fascinated with this story. Exactly, Mr. Dlamini. And this happened, I can tell you, 2 to 3 times. The lights going off, the lights coming on just as I'm getting frantic, saying, oh my God, I have to park the car again. And then it struck me, Mr. Dlamini. You know what? It struck me. How I am waiting for the punchline. It struck me, Mr. Dlamini, that I suddenly realized that the first morning when I took the car out after Mum passed away, I was sick of life. I said, you know what, how can people believe in gods and whatever? And I opened the cabinet you have next to in front of the passenger side, Mr. Dlamini. I opened that cabinet. I really, the Ganesha idol, that idol, the elephant god idol, was sitting there on the dashboard. It was stuck there, some glue, I don't know what it was, but I broke it off. I didn't break it, because, Mum, Mum would have been angry. I just pulled it off. I took off the adhesive, and I shoved it into that glove compartment. Yeah, that's what it's called, glove compartment. And Mr. Dlamini, how I can tell you this when the problem started, eh? Exactly, Mr. Dlamini. So if I was religious, I would have probably equated it to the elephant god. But I'm not religious. So that's when I understood it was my mum. You won't believe what I did, Mr. Dlamini, that when I realized that it was, I had kept that elephant god in the glove compartment. You don't know what I did. I spoke to my mum. I literally spoke to my mum as if she was there. And I said, come on, Mum, you're not here anymore. It's okay, Mum. I mean, I'll take that idol out and I'll keep it there on the dashboard. But you can't allow this to happen. You can't keep doing this, Mum. You know what? I said, this is fascinating. Exactly. And for a logical and practical thinker like me, non-believer in God, I actually put that elephant god out. I put it on the seat. I put it where Mum used to sit, and the car started. You won't believe it. I'm in shock right now as well when I'm telling you this. I can't believe it myself, but it happened. And the car did not do. I had no problems with the car after that. Everything worked perfectly. Some logical thinker or someone would just say, it's just a loose connection. It's just happening all the time. And come on, this is too much of a coincidence. So then I just said, Mom, do you understand that? And I put the elephant god into the glove compartment again. And guess what, Mr. Dlamini? The car stopped again. Car didn't stop. It worked perfectly. That's why I understood Mum's soul, a part of her soul, sort of understood that, we can't keep a hold on this life when we don't have a hold on this life anymore. And then there are so many other stories. I'm sure we'll get together, have a drink, and I'll be able to tell everyone everything as well. How you are right, and if you can just slowly, that was so good. But the bosses have called me up again, and we have to go back towards palmistry, which is why I will continue palmistry now. So what was I talking about before? The soul and reincarnation. Yeah, so this is a roundabout way of reincarnation. If it works, obviously, what I'm talking about, the soul coming into someone else's body, because reincarnation is supposed to happen at birth. To explain this theory further, one must ask the question of the soul survival in the body of a person that is mentally challenged. You see, this is fascinating, Mr. Dlamini. Unfortunately, it's worse if the person was mentally challenged from birth. Then there's no chance for the soul to grow into the person that it could have been. If the person became mentally challenged later on in life, then the soul of that person would find it extremely difficult to survive, as that person's body or vessel has a brain that is now incompatible with the soul. Its limited functioning doesn't match the soul's higher functioning. This theory is scary, isn't it, Mr. Dlamini? Very scary indeed. When we look at the soul of a religious person, then this person is probably the calmest of them all. For these people, their afterlife is already known. They believe that they either go to heaven or hell, or in some cases live in a harem. It depends on their religion. So now you must be wondering if I believe in an afterlife, in heaven and hell, even though I don't believe in a God. Correct, Mr. Dlamini, it's very confusing, but I think I am there. I am with you. I'll get to this point though the moment I finish my explanation of the remaining 3 examples. The 3 examples are, the first one is the atheist. I just got a message there. I hope it doesn't matter. Anyway, the atheist feels that after death it's the end. And that's how it is for an atheist. There's no reason for the soul to stay. The person that believes the soul is alive after death but doesn't believe in a God is a person like me, and what this entire topic on palmistry is about. Yes, remember Mr. Dlamini, I know I'm talking about palmistry, and all this, you can tell your bosses, all this what I'm going on about is in fact about palmistry. I haven't forgotten. And finally, Mr. Dlamini, that evil person, Mr. Dlamini, I keep saying, but it's because I'm talking Mr. Dlamini. I do hope there are many people who are going to be listening to this podcast. Anyway, if there aren't many people listening, well, I'm always there. They can listen anytime. If you don't listen, well, what the hell. Anyway, I too believe an evil person's soul is extremely dangerous if the said evil person believes that his or her soul can exist after death. There's no telling what calamity will strike if such a soul can steal another person's body. I don't know whether to laugh or cry, or to create 2 or 3 episodes on this topic for a podcast. This is crazy stuff you're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. But there's one more thing I want to explain. I do believe that the soul has one more choice to make after death, and this, I'm afraid, to a logical person like me, is unbelievable. But a part of me needs to believe it and wants to believe it. This choice is about reliving your previous life again, basically getting a second chance to go back in time. For example, let's imagine that I died and I decided to relive my life so that I can use the experiences that I gained in this life to ensure that I take better decisions in my new life. There's an immediate problem here, and that is that I'll be stuck in the mind of a baby which still has to develop properly. Would I be able to do that? I don't think so. Therefore, I put myself to sleep inside that baby and hope to wake up when the baby, or the baby me, is a bit sane. The problem which comes up is that the long sleep, if I've slept, or the long wait, even if I haven't slept, is slowly degrading my current soul. My baby soul is still developing, you see. Therefore, what I do is etch in a number of memories, experiences that have affected me in this life into that baby's brain. That baby meaning baby me. Let me ask the listening now. If there is anyone listening, as they must be dialing the nearest mental institution to get me admitted, about if they've ever seen, ever done anything, or ever experienced anything in their lives, a moment where they had a choice to make, a very important choice I must say, and they didn't know what to do, then suddenly for no reason or for a flimsy reason, you make that choice, or without thinking you make that choice. This is what is known as instinct, or those etchings in your brain that you made, or from your previous soul taking that decision for you, such as a decision which may have saved your life. Not purchasing a ticket to a plane that crashed, or taking a right turn instead of the left, which connected to a bridge that collapsed a minute later. Or there may be tiny incidences. Other incidences include using your instinct when taking a shot instead of passing, or going to score a try instead of passing. In those cases, it may just be your brain analyzing all the data stored to give you the best possible option as quickly as possible. But for those other choices, what valid reason can you give for not taking that right turn, or saying no to a business proposal that looked so good on paper but was worthless a day later? Even buying shares that everyone says were brilliant but turned out crap. And there are also times when the person never lived a previous life. Then you may ask, what is the meaning of the lines on your weaker hand? And that is a good question. If the baby was born afresh, without any previous connection, with a brand new soul, then what of those lines? Shouldn't it be then that the palm of the weaker hand is blank, as well as the other hand? For if there are lines on both palms, according to this theory, shouldn't the past and destiny be already set? Good grief, I may not be able to speak for the other listeners out there, but what you are saying is absolutely fascinating. Please carry on. It gets even more interesting, Mr. Dlamini. This question got me a bit flustered too, but then the answer came to me pretty quickly. The answer is genetics. Every single baby on this planet, whether conceived naturally, through in vitro or whichever way, needs to have the genes of a male and a female. I think only one species on this planet in the animal kingdom can have a baby by itself. I can't remember. I think it's a lizard. I'm not sure, Mr. Dlamini. Or is it a bug, or is it one of those germs? Oh, just carry on, Mr. Guru Khare. Okay, thus the lines are made up of a combination of the genetics of both parents, Mr. Dlamini. Isn't that amazing? Truly profound, Guru Khare. I should finally finish off by saying that the future can be changed, and the lines will reflect this change in the future in the minimum of a week or 2 weeks' time. Any event that has an impact on a person's life, emotionally or physically, should be seen in the palm. I have based many readings on personal experiences, and therefore I need to stand by them, simply because I know I didn't lie to myself. Also, I think it would be silly to read something in one part of the hand and not look for the same thing in another part of the same hand. For example, let's say that the person being read is seen to have a massive injury at some point, and the sign is seen on the person's line of life. Then shouldn't his or her headline or line of heart or even line of destiny reflect the same time too? By the way, each line can give you a roundabout figure of when an incident may happen. To take this further, what if that person who's destined to have a serious injury is part of a happy couple or family? Shouldn't their lines reflect the same corresponding massive event? The reason being that a life-threatening event to a person that is extremely close should have an effect on the persons, I should say, that are mentally affected by their friend or relative being close to death. In conclusion, a reading can't be 100% unless you can correspond the reading with others. Otherwise, it's just based on one palm, and usually for many readers, that's enough. There are reasons I can believe in the supernatural. The simplest explanation being that I've experienced the spirits or souls of the dearly departed, humans and animals, trying to communicate from the other world. Diana, my crossbreed little doggy who I spent 10 to 12 years of my life, living, called her my sister, my daughter, and that's for another story, I guess, Mr. Dlamini. How you're getting very emotional, eh? Hey, Guru Khare, please, just finish off now. You have done very well. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. All I want to say is here that there are reasons I can believe in the supernatural. The simplest explanation being that I've experienced the spirits or souls of the dearly departed, humans and animals, trying to communicate from the other world. The other world, to me, being a place that souls reside, not in living terms of residing, let me be clear, just existing, like a cold wind you suddenly feel, or a sudden breath of air. These souls slowly turn into ghosts and are stuck until they set themselves free, or someone can set them free. And by free, I mean to die into nothingness. Now, Mr. Dlamini, you should play some eerie spiritual music. Goodbye. And that was Guru Khare. We are saying Salagashle to him from the studio. And I am telling you, if you have any thoughts, if you want to say anything, please comment wherever you want to comment. And Siabonga for listening. Thank you.